So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again for The More You Know with Sergeant Mitchell. Today, I have Lieutenant King, an actual ICU nurse in the Air Force. She has volunteered to come on, to be interviewed to make sure everyone can understand the benefits, the pros and cons of being a nurse in the Air Force. So, Lieutenant King, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's nice to be on your page, and I'm looking forward to eliminating some answers, getting some people more information about the truths and facts of the Nurse Corps, and maybe like some fun about the myths and legends of it, but we'll stay with the truth and the facts.
Yes, thank you for saying that. There's a lot of myths on YouTube and Reddit, things of that nature. So that's why I love interviewing you guys to get the God honest truth out there. So the first thing I like to ask people, ma'am, is what made you decide that the Air Force might be a route for you?
It's a wonderful question. And also, if you go through the application process, that's probably going to be an interview question as well. So make sure you think through why you're considering joining and give it an honest answer. Like really do some soul searching about why you want to join. So for me personally, I grew up in a very American patriotic family, and I am very grateful to be in America. I also believe it's important to give back and to serve your country. So it might sound cliche, but for me, it's really the truth. I did want to serve my country, and I'm starting off with 3 years. If the military likes me and I continue to like the military or like more of the military, I may extend that contract. But for right now, 3 years is my service commitment, and I wanted to do the Air Force specifically versus the other branches because I do believe for my career goals, it was more of a professional branch that I could pursue my degree in and my career. So that's why I have nothing against any of the other branches. I actually have 3 brothers, and my father and grandfather, they were all in different branches. So I can be proud of them all and kind of poke fun at my brothers in the different branches. But that was why I chose the Air Force. And jokingly, I love planes, so hopefully I get to fly in some more planes. And I don't swim very well, so that's definitely why I did not choose the Navy.
So I know you said, ma'am, that you chose the Air Force. One of the big factors was your educational benefits, you being able to pursue your education. So can you speak a little bit more about that? What about the Air Force's educational benefits made you believe that this is the route for me?
Sure. I went in with the Air Force with my bachelor's and my master's already. So hopefully I didn't lead anyone astray with that. You have many educational benefits joining the military, whether or not you have your bachelor's and you want to use military benefits to get your master's or to go for an advanced practice degree. Many nurses I have met, my coworkers, whether they're Air Force or Army, they're looking into going to CRNA school and having the military help finance that. So that's a huge benefit that you want to look into. If you're considering an advanced practice degree, the military will help you obviously graduate with that debt-free. However, you do have different responsibilities, years to pay back, so on and so forth, and it can be competitive to get in. That is not my goal. My goal when I looked at the different branches, why I wanted to join the Air Force, there is an opportunity called the CCAT team. It stands for Critical Care Air Transport Team.
Yes.
That is in the Air Force. It's not in the other branches. And that is a career goal I have. And that also helped me narrow down my decision for the Air Force.
So I'm glad you brought up the CRNA program. And what do you call it, the CCA team?
A CCAT, C-C-A-T-T.
Left out one T. So we definitely get those questions a lot. So I'm glad to hear about you that you are speaking about those programs, because people sometimes are a little bit hesitant when I tell them, like, yes, you will be afforded the opportunity to be a CRNA in the Air Force. There's numerous programs that's going to be available to you. Now, when you joined, ma'am, you said you had your BSN and your MSN, which means you're super smart and you love school. So did you have any type of civilian nursing experience before you applied?
I did. I had a little over 2 years of civilian nursing experience. I actually started in med-surg, and then COVID, I got into the ICU. And so with that experience, I met the requirements to come into the Air Force as a critical care nurse. And I'm really glad I did that. I am extremely grateful that I had civilian experience, because then I can look back and see we did it civilian wise this way, and now the military way is different. So I can eliminate some thoughts or questions other people have with like how is civilian versus military nursing different. And it didn't affect me coming into the military, like make me any better, any worse, except because I was able to have civilian ICU experience, I qualified to come in as critical care.
Yes. So
That
with
was
that,
helpful.
okay, since you had the civilian experience, ma'am, so this is another big question I always get. How does being a civilian nurse differ from being an Air Force nurse? Can you please speak about that, the pros and the cons?
Sure thing. So when you think about nursing, just remember everyone goes through the same nursing school. Nursing is nursing. You have your nursing process. That's the same. You have your medication administration with your medication rights. That is still the same. What's different is you will be in a military hospital, still nursing, but for the most part, your nursing patients will be military members, active duty, maybe reserve, National Guard. It'll be their family members. And it'll be a lot of retired military members and their family members as well. Depending on the type of hospital you're in, you might see civilians. My hospital is the San Antonio Army Medical Center, and that is the only level 1 trauma hospital that we have. And we will see trauma civilian patients here quite a bit. So that's a little bit of the type of patient clientele you'll see. You will be in, if you come in as critical care, depending on the hospital you go to, you could be put in like a general ICU, or here at CMC, there's the surgical trauma, there's the burn, there's cardiac, medical. So you have a variety of ICUs that you might be put into, but remember, nursing is still the same. Hours,
There you go.
unless something new is happening, it'll still be your 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
And it probably depends on the facility. You'll do like 6 to 6, 7 to 7. Here at SAMC, it's 7 to 7. And I did a stint in the PACU because they needed help. So that was a little hour difference, but I went back to my ICU.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of some other differences that you might have. Pay, you get paid based on your rank.
Yes.
So when you come in, irregardless of your education, no one will come in as a captain or above. You're either going to come in as a second lieutenant or a first lieutenant, and it doesn't matter on your specialty code. I can get into that in a second, but no matter anyone's specialty code, you'll have the same pay as the second lieutenant, and then you'll have a little pay increase when you become a first lieutenant. That's like your promotion, but it is your promotion or your like pay raise, and that will stay the same until you become a captain in 2 years later. I don't know if you want me to get into pay now, or if there's another difference between military and civilian nursing question people have had.
No, yes, continue with pay. There's some more, but I'll wait till you finish with the pay part now.
Okay, so with pay, you have your general pay. You get paid twice a month, and there's, you can ask your recruiter if I explain this wrong, but this is what I've understood, and this is what I see in my LES statement, your pay statement. Your pay, and then you have your base allowance pay, and then you have a stipend pay. So it's like 3 sets of pay you get each paycheck. And my caveat is I live on base, which is very, very nice. However, there's some things to know about that. Your base allowance, your base housing allowance is a set rate depending on your rank as well. And so say this isn't the actual pay, but say you get like $1,500 for your base allowance housing. You can either take that and live somewhere off base, and say like all your rental fees is $1,100, but you get $1,500, so you pay $1,100, you can pocket the $400. But if you decide to live on base like me, which I have my own reasons for living on base, the housing community takes that whole base pay, so they would take the whole $1,500, and that's it. So it depends on like your family situation, where you want to live, why. That's the pay. And then there's different bonuses, not bonuses, I'm sorry, but the bonuses I'm talking about would be like your thrift saving plan and different ways to save for your retirement that way. So.
And I'm glad to hear you talk about staying on base, because I get that question a lot. Am I able to stay on base? You guys are going to keep me confined? I'm like, no, you have the option. You can stay on base or go off base and live. I believe that you're going to make more money living off base because of basic allowance for housing. Like you stated, ma'am, if you're smart with your money, you can pocket a lot of that BAH, the basic allowance for housing. So I'm glad that you did touch on that. But I did want to take a step back and talk once again about the differences, because you're going to be a nurse, but also you're going to be an officer. So which means you're going to have more responsibilities than just the regular civilian nurse. Can you speak about that?
Yes. So we talked about military civilian nursing, not much different, but being a military nurse first,
Yes.
the responsibilities that come with that will vary depending on your military facility, your rank, and then your supervisors and the needs, of course, of the military. So one of my military nursing duties right now is I am a unit safety representative for 2 units, 3 South, 3 East. And I am the lead representative of those 2 units with another fellow officer. And my duties are to ensure about 20 people, officers and enlisted people, have different safety forms filled out. And we have been working on that for the past 3.5 months, ever since I got that position. I've been emailing multiple people, making sure that we have 4 to 5 forms filled out. We have to have them sign in, a couple papers I have to get back from them, I have to sign. We have to upload them in different L drives on the facility computers, and then communicating with my representative who's above me to make sure that we are meeting those deadlines and the audit deadlines. That's super important, because then she gives briefings to the wing commander as well. So that's one of my responsibilities. And then there are other responsibilities such as nursing audits that you might have to do and be assigned to on that floor, and helping with the recall roster if there's a sentinel event, or if there's a weather event, or we had concern about a shooting a few weeks ago and they did a recall roster. So someone was in charge of making a phone call chain, and then you call the next person and you call the next person, and then whoever's at that top will report back to their supervisor. So that's some of the military responsibility aspects. But the more you go up in rank, the more you go up in responsibility military-wise as well.
Awesome. So I'm glad you touched about that, ma'am. And also, let's not forget about that lovely, lovely physical fitness test that we have to do every single year. So yes, you do have to be in some type of semi-shape to be in the Air Force. We're not looking for CrossFit warriors, but yes, you definitely have to be in shape. So now, ma'am, let's talk about the application process. When did you start the whole process of applying to be an ICU nurse? Do you remember?
I do remember very well. I remember waking up one morning and being like, I waited and I waited, and I think I put this off, and COVID put it off, and I'm ready to start. So last year, 2021, February is when I actually started my application process. And I was able to get in touch with a medical recruiting office. That started the ball rolling. I went through about 5 recruiters, 2 twice, so 7, I count that, in about 5 months. And it was a lot to keep track of. So big pointer right here, always keep track of all your papers you receive, anything you sign, make sure you have a folder, have copies, don't lose them. And it will really, really help you out. I had a unique situation because I just like pushed and pushed and pushed, not necessarily like annoyed my recruiter, but I pushed myself to make sure I was meeting all their deadlines, to find out what the deadlines they had so I could meet them, because I knew I wanted to join and start my military career as soon as possible. And I didn't want to wait a year, 2 years. And sometimes that does happen for applicants. You have to wait almost over a year. It depends on, it's called Officer Training School right now, OTS, if they have a slot for you, if they have a need for your nursing specialty even, which they usually do. And if you apply that helps if you're applicable for that position too. And so February is when I started my application. Papers. And then in April, I had my 2 interviews, and that will be expected. You'll have an interview with the chief nurse, and then you'll have another interview with a person of that specialty to see if you actually qualify for, if you're doing critical care like I did, it'll be a critical care interview. They'll give you different scenario questions just to test your knowledge and your critical judgment. And then the chief nurse interview will be to see if you are actually a military officer material. And they might ask you some nursing questions, but it's more hypothetical officer situations and why you want to join maybe. Do you know anything about the Air Force and its significance? So I found out in May that I was accepted. Praise the Lord. Yes. And then I was working, making sure I was ready, making sure I was physically fit, which I got to. And then you have some pre-course work to do. I started OTS August the 3rd in Montgomery, Alabama. And on October 8th, I reported to Fort Sam Houston.
Awesome. So I'm glad.
Relatively a very short period.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm glad to hear you talk about, applicants need to stay on top of their recruiters because most people don't realize, like my office, there's two of us and we cover everything in Southern Texas. So we get a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails. So it's very important that when we set deadlines and we need things that you get us everything on time. And if for some reason you cannot make that happen, just keep that open communication because it still shows us that you are trying, but maybe life just got in the way. Just don't, that deadline passes and we're like, hey, where's this form? You're like, oh, I'm just been busy. And he's like, okay, well, maybe you're not this serious. So during your interviews, ma'am, so how do you feel like you made yourself stand out to be selected? Because being selected as an ICU nurse is very, very competitive. So how, in your opinion, how did your application stand out?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I believe my application hopefully stood out because I had very strong recommendation letters.
Okay.
I was so blessed to be in a hospital where I ended up being floated quite a few places. I was a trusted team member, and I'm glad for that. But I got to meet my chief nurse officer. I knew my ICU director at my civilian hospital very well, and then I was able to work quite a bit with my chief hospitalist. So those were my 3 personal recommendation requests I asked for. And because we had known each other personally, I was able to have very strong recommendation letters from them, which I greatly appreciate. So I would recommend looking through your acquaintances, your professional acquaintances, and seeing who would be a strong recommendation, who hopefully knows you and knows your work ethic and knows your character. Yes. So if they can speak strongly on that and not make up fluff, that's so strong. Because if you do go to your chief nursing officer and you ask for recommendation, but you've never really met them, never really worked with them, and they look through your file and be like, oh, she never had any black marks, they'll just write like a generic, oh, yes, I recommend them because they haven't messed up in work. That's not as strong as if you actually have a personal recommendation. I would recommend that. And also, like Sergeant Mitchell said, make sure you are being on time, because if they see that you sincerely want to join and it looks like you are submitting your papers on time and it's not like a year and a half for you to actually get your packet together, that will probably be noticed. And then for the interview process, I prepared myself extensively as I could. I asked multiple questions from different people I knew who had either been in the military or who were thinking about it and how they were preparing. I dressed the part. I looked professional with a suit, and you want to pay attention to how you look. Don't just like wear nice jeans and a t-shirt. Actually look professional, look the part. And practice questions. I looked at nursing review questions, critical care nursing review questions. I looked at officer questions. So I didn't just think of some questions and be like, oh, that would be a good answer. I practiced with people. Actually, I made myself verbally answer because I was nervous, of course, and I didn't want to flood my way or stutter my way through the application process. So that was definitely something that helped me make my application strong, I believe.
Yes, and it's so crazy, man. I'm glad to hear what you said about the letter recommendation, because I always tell people, you want to show that selection board that you have been a hardworking, driven person your entire life. Most people just want to put, I want to make my parents proud. That's amazing. But when you have everyone saying the same exact thing, how are you making yourself stand out? They want to know that you have a passion for medicine. You have a passion for being a nurse in the Air Force. And last but not least, how are you going to make the Air Force a better organization if we select you for a position? That is what they are looking for. And like you stated, you definitely want to show up in something business casual, not jeans and t-shirts. You don't want to say, hey, what's up? You want to go there looking professional. And if you're ever unsure about what you should do, definitely ask your recruiter. If you're not getting an answer for them, my Instagram, my email will be in the bottom of this video. Please reach out to me, and I will definitely do my best to prep you to make sure you have the best chance of getting selected.
Yes, now, don't leave it up to chance. Don't leave it up to chance. Make yourself dress for success and act for success.
They will not tell us why you're not selected. So the only thing we see in the system is not select, and we cannot tell you guys why you were not selected. Mm-hmm. So now, the most important thing of your application, the assignment listing, ma'am. Do you mind speaking about that? Because people always ask, do I get to choose where I would like to go? Will the Air Force consider that? So please speak about that.
Yes, they will consider that at some point. And I'm sorry, I don't remember if it's before or after I actually got accepted, but I did get a job listing selection paper, and I can put I believe it was the 6 top choices I wanted for stateside, and then my 3 top choices for overseas.
Yes, ma'am.
And one thing that you have to make sure you know is what options are available to your specialty code. As a nurse, you're going to be 4-6N, and then depending on your nursing specialty, you'll have something else. So for critical care, you're going to be 4-6N-3E. Your recruiter, especially if it's Sergeant Mitchell, will be on top of things, and he'll give you a list that will tell you what critical care options are available to you. I believe there are 9 stateside and 3 or 4 overseas for critical care in the Air Force. And I almost didn't catch that in time. I was going to put like, oh, that state looks nice, that state looks nice. And then I realized that wasn't even an option. Like, they don't even have a critical care unit at that state. So know that. I was extremely fortunate to get my first option. That's not always the case.
Yes.
I'm not really sure how I got my first option, but my first choice was Fort Sam Houston at the San Antonio Army Medical Center. Thrilled about that. But if you get another place that's not your first option, you will PCS every 3 to 4 years if you're in for multiple years, or if you continue to stay in. So it's not, please don't think it's the end of the world if you don't get your first choice. There's a reason why, and life will continue on. So just take it and grow where you will be planted. Even though it sounds cliche, you can still grow where you get sent, and it's not going to be a final place. But,
yes, ma'am. So part of your application is the assignment listing. So you will submit that with your application.
Okay.
And like you stated, the Air Force will look at it, but we cannot send everyone to number 1 and number 2 choice. Air Force needs always comes first. And my favorite story is when I first came in back in 2005. Yes, I've been in that long. I put all overseas, and the Air Force sent me to Oklahoma City. Hey, that's where they needed me at. I made the best of it for 18 months. Then the Air Force sent me to Okinawa, Japan for 4 years. And then I went to Tampa, DFW, and now I've been in San Antonio since 2019. So things, if you don't like your first assignment, it's not going to be permanent. Just focus on, why are you interested in joining the Air Force? Is it the pay? Is it the medical? Is it just you want to serve your country? You don't join because you want to be stationed in Texas. That's not why you join the military. You join for some type of benefit.
That's right. I'm from Colorado. I love my 4 seasons. I love my snow. I love the lack of humidity. So you have to have another reason for joining. And if you are joining because you think you're going to travel all over the world, put the brakes on that, because you might not. You might end up in Oklahoma, and you might end up in Texas, and you might end up like other places that you never thought you would end up. Like, you want to go to Germany and Japan and Hawaii and all those other places. That might happen.
Yes.
I wouldn't encourage you to join just because you think you're going to travel to all the places you want to see. It might happen. It might be a perk, but don't bank on that. And I have a couple other thoughts I wanted to go back with making your resume strong and your application strong. Things that might set you apart. If you have your certification for CCR and your critical care certification, that will also set you apart. They really like to look at that. I did not have mine when I started my application, but I did know that I wanted to get it, and I made it clear that I was planning to get it as soon as I could sit for that test. So they made note of that. But if you already have it, kudos to you. And a second thing is, are you participating in any professional organizations? The AACN is a big critical care organization. And if you're not part of that, I would encourage you to join. And I would encourage you to find your state chapter and get involved in that. You can maybe be a board member or do volunteer work. That will make your resume strong, because that shows you're involved in your profession, and that you would probably be involved in your profession in the military as well. So think of that. Also, just in general, volunteer activities, that looks well on your resume too.
You guys better pay attention. Lieutenant King is trying to get people selected. She's passing along tons of great information how to make your application stronger. So now you've been selected, you have your class day, now you show up to OTS, Officer Training School. Can you speak about your experiences?
I could speak for a very long time about that experience, but I'll try to keep it a little succinct. Yeah. I was very, very worried about OTS. I was very nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of military people who enlisted, who are going in, who are clueless, who are probably so much smarter than me, who are so much more fit than me. Yes, 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 no, no, no. Okay. Everyone has their different strengths, everyone has their different weaknesses and their own experiences. So the way I can tell you is, yeah, look up on Google people's experiences, there's like blogging posts, Q&A posts that you can find out. Recommendation I have is actually get on Facebook. Once you find out you're accepted and find your class number, mine was class 2108. So the year and then the month, it was like 2021 and then 08 for August when I joined. They should start a Facebook page for that class. That was a huge help. I actually made friends before I even met them. And I still have some contacts now. I have a friend who ended up in Germany, which is amazing for her. But get on Facebook because you're all helping each other. You're all like, I'm coming from this place, I'm coming from that place. It helps to connect and then find out you're doing this, I'm doing this. This is what I heard. This is, I had a friend in the past class and this is what they're doing currently. So look on Facebook. That's my first suggestion. The second suggestion is ask your recruiter. Yes. Because you're helping so many people go through this. And a lot of times the officers that get selected and go through OTS, sometimes they will stay in touch with their recruiter and be like, FYI, this is what we did this time. This is what's current in OTS. And your recruiter can also be a gold mine of information to help you prepare. They should give you lists, supply lists, packing lists of what you need to get. I do recommend bug spray and yeah, some like, energy pills or like, electrolyte packets. That was a good one. If you go in the summer, you're going to sweat like a pig. But they'll also give you some pre-course work. Try and get that done ahead of time. You technically have to, but get it done ahead of time.
Did you buy your uniforms before you got to officer training school, or did you wait until you actually got there?
Yes, thank you. I got as much as I could beforehand. If you can get sponsored onto a base, go to the base exchange and buy your uniforms. They will be a little pricier than I thought they would be, but I'm so glad I had them. I'm so glad I didn't have to go shopping when I got there because you really don't have time and it looks like you came unprepared. So you should have time between getting accepted and going to your start class day to go shopping, get everything you need. You're going to get your occupational camouflage pattern uniforms, your OCPs. You need to get your boots, your socks, your rank, everything. Get it ahead of time, try it on, make sure you're comfortable breaking your boots. That's a big thing as well. And it'll be fine. It'll be fine. If I can talk on what's expected at OTS.
Yes.
All right. So I know they're changing it. It's still on straight. I did 8 weeks. Some people have done 5 weeks. It's not clear if you're going to do 5 weeks or 8 weeks. So plan on the 8 weeks. Just plan on 8 weeks, okay? It's going to be okay. The first couple of weeks, they're letting you acclimate to the Alabama weather, the elevation and all that. So you won't have a lot of physical sessions. I would recommend doing exercises in your room. My room was amazing. I'm so thankful for my roommates. We did exercise in our room, kept us accountable, but you'll be doing a lot of drill practices the first couple of weeks. So if you're in the summer months, you'll be sweating a lot. Just know that. You'll be drinking a lot, drink a lot, and just go with that flow. And it'll be flowing. And then you'll also start some classroom lectures. You'll have classroom lectures with the drill practices. And then after the couple of weeks, it'll turn into PT in the morning and then a lot of lectures. You'll have academic sessions. There'll be some tests, some quizzes. You'll actually start some papers and do some speaking presentations. So hopefully you will be aware of that. You'll be kind of comfortable with that thought going in there. It's okay, you have your baccalaureate degree already. Hopefully you've done speaking and papers and tests already. So just remember, it's gonna be okay. And my thing was, if you got through nursing school, you'll get through OTS school as well. It's gonna be okay. Were there other specific questions on OTS people have asked?
I always tell people it's a lot easier than what I went through with basic military training. They treat officers a lot better. Yes, people will still talk to you maybe a little bit more sternly than what you're used to, but you're not getting yelled at, you're not getting hit. And that is a big fear for people. Is somebody going to hit me? Like, no, this is not Full Metal Jacket. It is nothing like that. So I know you came from a military family, so can you speak about maybe you had any classmates who had zero experience? Because I always tell people, like, you don't have to have experience or any type of knowledge to succeed in OTS. Does it help? Yes, but they're going to teach you everything that you need to know. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. So in my family, no one actually has gone through OTS or anything like that. I'm the first person to do that.
Okay.
And I knew the military ranks, but I actually never knew them in order. I didn't know a lot of the differences in the military branches. So I don't consider myself like a big military knowledgeable person before I joined. I had to learn a lot of things from scratch, and I did. You'll get this little booklet called the OTS manual, the Ottsman, memorize it. You'll be like expected to know it back and forth and be quizzed on it. And you will be okay if you don't know that a captain comes after a first lieutenant. You will be okay because you'll learn that there. If you call someone by the wrong rank, you will get yelled at. You won't get hit, obviously. Nope, none of that. You might feel embarrassed. That will happen because you are learning. And in the learning environment, you are bound to get something wrong or make a mistake. Exactly. And you'll be embarrassed, but you will learn from that and you'll move on. So don't take it personally when you do get yelled at, because that will probably happen. And that is just to help make you learn it quicker and more permanently.
When did you have your first physical fitness test? Because I believe it's in the first 2 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I want to say it was the second or third week. Okay. It was a lot longer than we anticipated. And I'm not sure if it had anything to do with the ends of their COVID restrictions. They were loosening up a little bit in my class. They had many, many restrictions during the last year and a half because of COVID. So I want to say it was the second or third week at least. And they gave us a couple of days to actually get out on the track and run and do some more PT exercises before they were expecting us to do the actual test. And then you will do it again within the last couple of weeks of OTS as a final grade. So the first one is almost diagnostic, but you still don't want to mess up.
Of course.
Obviously. But you'll expect it to be doing the run and the sit-ups and the push-ups. However, I think by the time someone else is going to be starting the OTS, they're going to have some caveats to the PT options. Yes. Whether or not it's like push-ups versus planks or something like that. But like I said, I would still be exercising in your room, doing sit-ups, doing push-ups, stretching. Don't go lax with that. And drink lots of water.
I'm glad you spoke about that, ma'am. I always tell people you do not have to be in shape to start the application, but you definitely want to start some type of physical routine if you haven't already, because you do not want to be that person who's selected and you don't work out and you get the OTS and you're coughing up blood the very first lap. That is not
or throwing up,
when you're dying on the first lap and you're trying to be an officer. So once again, it's very easy. It's a mile and a half, 6 laps. Push-ups and sit-ups. We're not doing pull-ups. We're not lifting ammo cans. We're not the Marines. We're not doing anything crazy like that. So you don't have to be in tip-top shape. So just start a workout routine and you will be fine. So
I'd like to piggyback on that. Yes, please listen to Sergeant Mitchell about exercising as soon as you decide to start that application. Please don't think that you are so valuable that they will let you slide if you don't pass any of your PT options. That will not be the case. You are a valuable member to the military if you get in, but they do expect you to be a valuable member who meets all of their standards and physical fitness.
So you pass OTS. So what would you say for someone who's thinking about this, whose family is not supportive? Because we hear a lot like, oh, my mom or my dad's a little bit hesitant because it's the military. They're going to think I'm kicking in doors, jumping out of helicopters, those type of things. And I try to tell them, you're joining as a nurse. You're not going to be security forces. You're not going to be special warfare. So can you talk about, your experiences right now being a nurse and how you haven't done anything like that? Yes.
That's very funny. As much as I would love to go in guns blazing and kicking in doors, that is definitely not the case at all. If anything, the worst thing I do is turn on a light during night shift to a patient who's trying to sleep. So you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
If your family member, your loved one is concerned about your safety because you're joining the military, that would be very, very rare indeed. I would say the only case would be if you did get deployed to a dangerous location, but you are also in the Air Force, and the Air Force does take care of its healthcare workers. You're not, as a rule of thumb, going to be near the front line at all.
Thank you.
And you'll be in a very safe and secure position. So I would reassure your family and loved ones about that. And my family, thankfully, was supportive. They were very sad to see me join just because I would be moving away from being close to my family and my loved ones. And that is something that might happen to you. I'm a single person, and that was why also I wanted to join. I'm not settled in one place with a husband and children right now, so it's easy for me to move and to serve more freely. If you are married or you have family, then you do have the opportunity to move with your family, of course, and the military might help you pay for that. So don't think that you are going to be on your own in a nowhere town working from dawn till dusk every day. That's not the case. You're going to have your normal shifts, and you can have a life outside of that military responsibility for sure. But I do hope your family is supportive. If not, try and find out why, find out their concerns. And then if I haven't helped answer some of those concerns, ask your recruiter, and he can reach out to me and I can try and explain some of their concerns away. I'd be happy to do that, but find out why they're concerned, and then we'll see if we can help you with some answers for that.
And I'm glad to hear you talk about too, ma'am. First off, volunteer to still ask questions. And secondly, speaking about your family can come with you if you're married. A lot of people think if they're selected, they're going off to prison. We're going to take away their phone, their laptops, and they can't speak to anyone for 3 years. I'm like, no, the only difference is you're wearing a uniform. You still have your iPhone, your Android. You can still Skype, FaceTime, and Zoom. You can still come back and have paid leave. You can still come back. San Antonio is still going to be here, Austin, Houston, San Marcos. So yes, you can still come back and visit your family members. What would you like to say, ma'am, to anyone who's possibly on the fence about applying to be a nurse in the Air Force?
If you're on the fence, obviously think about the why. And that's something I didn't ask myself enough of. So I'm encouraging everyone to ask, why do you want to join? There are going to be a multitude of reasons. And then think about how likely you are to get what you want. So if you're joining for loan repayment, obviously if you get selected, that's almost an absolute, you will get that loan repayment. If you're joining for advanced degrees, know that if you get in, you are probably going to get picked for an advanced degree at some point, but just know that it's competitive. So you might not get the first time you apply. So are you okay with that? If you have to wait an additional year than you planned, or maybe 2 years, are you okay with waiting that long? For a lot of people, I would hope yes, because if that's your end goal, it would probably happen. And then you would also have that loan repayment, so you could graduate debt-free with that advanced degree. But remember that you will still owe the military a few years because of that help. Yes. And if your reason for joining is more for a service obligation that you feel, which was for me, then that's great. If not, that's okay. You can still want to serve. You can still want to have loan repayment or get an advanced degree, or hopefully move overseas and see the world. So just think about why you want to join. And if you didn't get that, are you okay with it? So if you're okay with it, then I would encourage you to apply and to join and see what amazing opportunities the Air Force can hold for you. And if not, just take a step back and maybe give it some time to reconsider your why and maybe what plan B you would be okay with as well.
And thank you for saying the why, ma'am. I always tell people during our very first phone call is, what is your motivating factors? Why are you calling me today? Why did you go to airforce.com, or why did you pull me aside at some type of convention to ask me about the Air Force? You can't just be like, I want to be a nurse. Okay, well, I can stay in Idaho. Are you okay with that? No, then you don't want just to be a nurse. There's something behind that. So I always tell people, tell me why. I want to see passion when I speak to you. I want to see like, hey, this is the reason why. I've seen this. I researched this. So thank you for speaking about that. So
I'd like to add real quick. You made me think of something about the why. I want to be an experienced ICU nurse personally. I want to know my knowledge, and I want to use my knowledge so that knowledge turns into actual experience. There are some ICU hospitals that are very, very small that don't have high acuity. So if you're thinking that you will be treating blood and guts all day because you're just ICU, that also may not happen right when you join. You may get put in a smaller ICU because they need that staffing.
Yes.
And it may be very, very slow. So I've heard of other people who've come from different bases, I won't say names, but it's been very slow at that ICU. Very, very slow. But then that will be their PCS, or permanent change of station, and then they'll get a new station, and you might end up in San Antonio, and you may get put in the surgical trauma ICU, which is what I'm experiencing right now, and it's very busy. You'll have ventilated patients on CRT and multiple drips. So just know you won't have the same type of acuity in every single ICU. You should be expected and prepared to take the highest level of acuity, but just based on their census, that may not be the case. So I just wanted to also state
Oh, I
that.
appreciate that. Some things
Because
I
I was not aware of that. I thought if you get in an ICU, you would always have like critical patients. You
yes.
may sometimes have a little bit of a step down overflow. And if you have experience and you're coming as a civilian nurse, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes an ICU floor is just an overflow floor, or otherwise you are like scrambling to find ICU nurses. So it just depends on the day.
Well, Lieutenant King, I want to say once again, thank you for dropping all of this knowledge today. As a recruiter, you actually taught me a couple of things, and I'm not ashamed to admit that because I don't know everything. I will always reach out and try to be more well informed so I can be, more well informed for the next person to make sure they understand the process a little bit better. So I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to speak with us. Is there
My pleasure.
anything, last parting words that you have to say to, everyone out there that's watching this video right now?
Just a thought, like I said, when you're getting your application ready, always have copies of all your papers, especially once you sign them, but know that your recruiters are people too, and their jobs do change out. So like I said, I had, for all intents and purposes, 7 recruiters in 5 months because their jobs were changing. And a couple of times all my documents got lost. So I had to find all my documents again, re-sign everything, make sure the dates were the same. And that was frustrating. But then I remembered they're human too, and they get switched around maybe a lot, and they do have a lot of people that they cover. So just be patient with yourselves, with your recruiters sometimes, and stay on top. Practice really good organizational skills, and that will help you and your recruiter with the whole application process. But give yourself grace and give them grace, and give the Air Force grace as well.
Yes, ma'am. So if you have any questions for Lieutenant King, please email me or send me a message on Instagram. I will forward those questions to her. And when she has time, because we know that she's extremely busy, she will answer those questions and I will get them back to you as soon as possible. Once again, ma'am, thank you. And
My pleasure.
enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.